So today, suggest you cast the light on desire. What gets you here? What keeps you going? What your motivations are, purpose, vigorous, flagging, distracted, faltering, committed, wavering. Desire for deeper attainments, desire to learn, interest in clarity, peace, wish to fulfill the commitments of a holy life, wish for one's own well-being, wish for the well-being of others, wish for the long-term benefit of the Sangha, wish to bring the Dhamma into the world, wish to avoid more pain and conflict, wish to eliminate dullness and confusion, wish to let go of grudges and resentment, wish to stop criticizing oneself, being negative, gloomy, despondent. Desire. This is the desire realm. The realm of desire. We're born into the realm of desire. The citta arises in the realm of desire. That's what it's wrapped in. That's its mode. That's its, whether it's conscious, unconscious, skillful or unskillful, it's wrapped in its mode, its modality, it's wrapped in, it's moved along, that's its boat. And we can be negative about it, or we can say stop desiring things, but that's a desire too, isn't it? But it's a subtlety there. You know, when you really contemplate desire, so Ajahn Hingsako has asked me to offer some reflections because his wish, his understanding, his assumption, his judgment is this could be for the welfare, and he feels that I might better provide something. That's his desire. My wish is to support him, to support the Sangha. That's my desire. Then we'll see. But with some recognition, one realizes that, yeah, you know, you can fly your kite, throw it in the air, but where the wind's going to blow, who knows? You know? So some of this may land, but my general sense is a percentage of what I say might strike a percentage of people, a percentage of time, with a percentage of results. And that's sobering, but that's realistic, you know. And so it might fly right over the head. But here we are. We have to keep flying the kite. You have to keep, you know, because the wish is important. Otherwise, what's going to happen? We don't wish for that. It's going to go somewhere else. We're in the desire realm. If you're not trained, pruned, steered, it's going to go somewhere else. It's going to go into conceptual proliferation, planning. Fantasizing. Self-obsession. So we train desire, we prune it, we fashion it, we steer it. Desire to fashion and steer desire towards atta, not towards atta, but towards atta. It's good to get the pronunciation right. Atta is goal, purpose, welfare. Atta is self. So atha, start, work on pronunciation. The paramatta, the highest welfare, doesn't mean the supreme self. Highest welfare, paramatta. So where does it go wrong? So desire becomes craving. When it's shrouded with ignorance, it becomes craving. When craving is an acquisition mechanism, grab, acquire, extract, squeeze, get hold of something and extract benefit, pleasure from it. Or get hold of something so you can throw it away, get rid of it. Either way, we grab an object. Desire grabs hold of an object in order to extract something from that object. A thought, a sight, a sound. To arrive at some particular state that can be acquired. Around that process, along with ignorance, that process gives rise to someone who will acquire that. The desire to acquire, tanha, arises. We seem to be in a world of objects, sight, sounds, touches. It seems to be that way. That's the way it looks, senses. So let's get one of these and dismiss one of those. And then one will accumulate. So this is the craving program. With some wise assessment, we recognize it only goes so far and then it fails. It doesn't satisfy. It doesn't lead to completion, fulfillment. It doesn't lead to ending of suffering and stress. Pushes it down the road away, maybe an inch, and then we're at it again, more. Get rid of the things I don't like, get rid of him, get rid of that, get rid of that. Then what? Left with negativity. And so it doesn't lead to the ending of suffering and stress. So with some reflection, introspection, we recognize something about latching onto objects is a failure. Tanha. And once one is able to acknowledge that process, in order to acknowledge that process, there's some sense of perspective. That's an object. It can never be a subject. It can never be assumed into being me. Seems like it. If I only ate that, I would be happy. That quality would be extracted from the object and infused into me. And this is the fallacy, fake program. If I could get that sight, that touch, that string of sensations, then I would be good, I would be full, I would be happy. Pleasure could be extracted from those things and infused into me. But we recognize, with some wise assessment, there's a fallacy here, there's a hole in the bucket. The me thing doesn't hold anything. It just keeps leaking and feeling frustrated and hungry. Where did the me thing come from? It came from tanha. Seizing an object, when that's occluded with ignorance, gives this resonant impression of a me who's acquiring it, who wants more. So, dependent upon craving and grasping is the arising of me, the me sense, becoming. Tanha upadana bhava jati. Right? Craving, clinging, becoming something, birth. Here I am. Not the other way round. So I don't create craving. Craving creates me. So this kind of maybe takes some of the guilt out of it. So I'm a really craving person. I've got a lot of craving in me. No, there's craving. That's kind. That kind of anonymity of the presentation is not just being polite, it's being accurate. And then there's that sliver of recognition. It's possible there could be a detachment from craving and the objects that it seizes. Then there would not be that creation of me trying to grasp something that can't be grasped. What would that be? Mystery. Don't know. But it's enticing, isn't it? Just to get out of that loop, that frustrating loop of craving, which is a kind of corrupted, ignorant, occluded, obscure form of desire. We don't even necessarily, it just rushes through. It seems so ingrained with objects. So we say, well, what are the objects that we can grasp or are affected by? Sights, sounds, touches, thoughts. But then with some correct practice, I can witness a thought. So that's an object that can be witnessed, and with some practice and steadying in the witnessing, which doesn't object, doesn't fight, doesn't proliferate, doesn't claim, doesn't disclaim, just it's doing that. The object kind of fades, recedes. The thought dissolves. Maybe another one pops up, and you do it again. An emotion surges through, and you do that. Emotion surges. I'm really upset. How dare they? Da, 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 da. Thoughts, keep it going, and then just wait a minute. Don't start getting guilty or analysing. Just kind of be that, witnessing, openness around that experience. The heat goes out of it. The passion. The wish that it wouldn't be there maybe begins to fade. It's just that's what happened. Here we are. Here's a body. Here's the ground. And wave subsides. Maybe change into something else. Or it could be in that process. There's a moment of quietness. Just kind of balance. And then something else. Notice the moments, the endings of the thought, the emotion, the particular object seems so clear, so intensely configured. When one's held with this passion, it loses its hard edges. It becomes, well, I don't really feel like, and then whimper, whimper, flutter, flutter. Oh well. There it goes, One can be so convinced. The object's got a kind of tremendous intensity to it. Sometimes it takes quite a lot to be able to hold that in just awareness. And the tendency to keep forming a self around it. Why am this? This is happening to me, and then I wish I didn't have this. How can I stop being this way? And then you get more of that craving. And they say, look, it's this. Now, take the me out of it. And the key in the lock is turned and things, chance the door can swing open. Okay, end of drama. This is not obscure, I mean it's something we probably all relate to. This in a way is the heart of meditation, this seemingly humble experience. And encouragement is, yeah, you sit, stand, walk, restrain over a period of time, a lot of emotions and inclinations will arise. It's like suddenly Pandora's box is opened, because the energy that was normally going out into doing and changing and working things out is suddenly not given an object, so it begins to turn inwardly, and this opens the box. And this is considered good, because there's a chance one can clear one's residues. Feeling annoyed, feeling frustrated, feeling a bit pointless. Oh, good, good, good. Keep going. Keep your desire to hold, to assess, to sustain patience and awareness of these. You clear the residues that are latent, that the average person doesn't have the chance to clear, perhaps doesn't even acknowledge. They think resentment is because of other people, rather than latent ill will. So welded to the world of objects, we think the problem is that it's not the right object. If you change, I'd be okay. That object, if an object would be different, I'd be happy. It's juggling with objects. That's what the worldly mind does. Yeah? Social, political, economic, whole thing, materialism, is all about juggling with objects to get the right ones. And then the competition, and the fighting, and the grasping, and the acquisition, and the inequality, and the jealousy, and the crime, and the violence. And then we say, these people are so violent. You just bomb them and they get violent. Take away their water, they get unhappy. I wonder why. So this is the origin, this grasping of objects. But when we see an object as an object, the chance for that sliver of light to creep in. So I don't need to mess with this, tangle with it, pick up the ball and run with it, boot the ball into somebody else's camp, and the ball begins to deconstruct. But not through desire, but through where desire has placed it, into a place of dispassion. But without the desire, we wouldn't put it there. We'd just be kicking the ball. So that motivation is that. And when you kind of make it something like that, oh yeah, this is everything else is subsidiary, to how quiet I am, how long I can sit, how strong my body is, my emotional makeup. Wish I wasn't this kind of person. My mind's too busy. I'm not a calm, serene, mild-mannered person. I'm a bit of a volatile character. No. That's all right. It's very generous. As if you can do what it takes just to get that leverage. And there's the motivation. And whatever states will support that, whatever state of collectedness, whatever resolve that will support that, whatever uplifted devotion will hold that, whatever clarity of intellect will hold that, whatever being encouraged by the other people will do, fine. Sitting alone, fine. Whatever will do that. And then we have this realm of possibilities in which one can, of course, fine-tune systems and techniques. But remember, the path is an open road. So there's plenty of options, but those which lead to dispassion, detachment, cessation, relinquishment. That's the path. Cessation doesn't mean annihilation, it means stop running, stop things running on. That which was samudaya, rising up, welling up, rolling. Yes? Movement can stop. And it's seen. And this is so important because the phenomena that are really can take different characteristics. And the characteristic that Chitta is immersed in is not so much objects as discrete things, but streams, flows, movements, sankharas, perceptions, which are flushes, bursts, moods that sweep over. They're flows. And the Chitta is immersed in these flows. Some are flows that flow into it, some are flows that rush out of it. Flows into it we call feeling and perception. Impressions strike it. What is an impression? It's not exactly a lumpy thing, is it? It's a kind of oh yeah. And then something kind of crystallizes. Then it becomes momentarily something kind of like an object, but it touches, and there's a reaction, there's a shimmer. That's called contact, that shimmering, that resonance, that tingling, that sometimes something like an explosion, volatile rush, hit, I got it, wow. That's an event, isn't it? It's not a lump, it's not an object, it's an event. Contact is an event. Perception is an event. Yeah? And what arises out of those, the hinge point of contact, or an event, suddenly catalyzes a response. I jump, I move, I reach. Yeah? I reach out, something reaches, that's called intention, volition, sankhara. And Chitta is wrapped in these. These are its wrappings. This is what carries it. This is its boat. So exactly sights and sounds that touch the Chitta, but perceptions of sights and sounds. And if they didn't have any feeling to them, there would be no response. So perception, feeling, or what rock the Chitta. And when we recognize it's the liberation of Chitta, that is the aim, it's the stilling of these flows. Not the elimination of objects, exactly, but the quieting, the stilling of this current. Yeah? And that's desirable. Because with the stilling of that, desire completes itself, whereas tanha never arrives anywhere. The desire for liberation can arrive, and then desire switches off, because we've landed. Where if we landed on what's metaphorically called the other shore, a place you can't go beyond. Nibbana. Deathless, you cannot go beyond this. There's no more movement. Stopped. Yeah. Is that desirable? Certainly the Buddha didn't regret it. And he certainly seemed to encourage a path that way. And then the Buddha's own life. You know? Someone obviously extremely motivated, a lot of desire. His actions were in the world of, because that's where his actions took place. His actions took place in the world of desire, in moving streams, streams of intentionality, streams of discourses, currents we can follow. I say, don't cling to these. Follow the stream. Where does it go? Sutta, the stream enterer. Follow the stream. Where does it go? Buddha's constantly rippling these streams in his actions, his verbal actions, his mental inclinations. Keeps that going to his last dying moment. A lot of desire for the welfare of others. Hitam deva manutsanam, for the welfare of humans and deities. And Boccha, most of his career talking to people. The enormous majority of his time talking to people. Talking to people, visiting monasteries, encouraging, talking, encouraging. Well, The brief time I knew him, most of the time, if Luang Por Sucitto was present with people, he'd be talking. Teasing, encouraging, laying down lines, and so forth. Travelling. So most of his mature life spent highly motivated. He wasn't planning, I'm going to be the greatest teacher in the world, I'm going to have thousands of disciples, I'm going to build monasteries all over the place. No, I just set out the waves, the streams, we'll see where it goes. That's not my issue. The issue is just to keep sending out the benevolent streams. Where things land and crystallize in the realm of desire, there's so many cross currents, so many ripples, so many eddies, so many rocks. You never quite know where the stream's going to go, but that's what we do. We're in the realm of desire, we have no choice. Luang Por Sucitto, 90 years old, still every week, gets himself out, the kuti, over to the hall, sits there, gives his talk. He'll be doing that as long as he can talk, I'm pretty sure. Why don't you just shut up? The stream is still there. What are you going to do? Breathing in and breathing out. Mind is capable. So desire. Desire to stimulate those streams. This is the world of activity. Buddha's activity is in the world of desire. The Buddha's presence, you cannot find it. Not tracked, not traced. Just as they say the swan in the lake, in the river, swimming along, you see the tracks because of the ripples. But then the swans leave the lake. No tracks in the sky. So we examine some of these, not some streams, and how they become objects. How that which was fluid and changeable suddenly locks into something that jams. And you can liken this, since I'm talking about streams, to what happens in rivers. When the bed of the river has got rocks and debris in it, it twists and turns into eddies, become vortexes, and you get these swings round and round and round and round and round, because there's an underlying obstacle, and we may try to swish away at the eddy, knock it out, but it won't go until you move the rock, and then the water will flow through. This is when something, an eddy looks like a thing. You can certainly say it's there, it seems to be permanent, it's a permanent vortex, But actually looked at more clearly, no, it's not a permanent entity, it's a permanent pattern of swirling in a particular pattern. That pattern gives rise to the sense of a discrete thing. I can call it a whirlpool. I can say that whirlpool is 3 yards ahead. Be careful, it's right there. There it is, it's an object. Yeah. But actually it's a stream, becoming an object because of certain underlying qualities. This is how tanha forms. The underlying quality, ignorance. Underlying quality, attachment. The underlying quality, attachment which searches for something to be, to have, to hold, to acquire. Sense object or state of being or a state of non-being. Let me never experience this. These are the 3 forms of craving. And so this definitely mingles, doesn't it, with our wishes in our practice, or let me have a nice happy state. Yeah, careful. Careful, because you might get one and then lose it, or get obsessive and narcissistic and inflated with it, or but happy states, fine. But main thing is what generated that, what took you there. How are those streams conducive, and how does that stream lead beyond that happy state to even better places? So the Buddha teaches a happiness that leads on through piti, sukha, equanimity. So it becomes subtler, and one is led in by a quality of well-being. And then you, rather than stick there, by contemplation, by examining, by purifying any attachment to that, it leads on to subtler states where the citta recognizes the potential for release. And then, oh yes, I've been released from worry and doubt, so I'm happy. Now if you release from that kind of sense of acquiring happiness and just let the happiness settle, you release from that to a subtler kind of ease. Not sort of, just kind of feel less distinctly formed, because as the happiness subsides or moves on, the sense of the entity holding it also subsides. It becomes, there is quality of ease, but I don't really feel, there isn't a sense of being someone with it. It's just that. And so the happiness that leads to the diminution of the sense of identity, discrete self, object holding an object, a subject holding an object, into something more undifferentiated, that is the path, or one way in which the path is configured. And how is that? Through dispassion. One experiences happiness, one is dispassionate. This is this. This is this. Watch out for clinging. Feel the energy change from a constricted state, from a twisted state to something more benevolent. Very good, lovely. Now let it continue. Linger. Open. We begin to understand that shifting of attention. As it said in the sutta, Manasikara Samudaya, Dhamma Samudaya, Manasikara Nirodha, Dhamma atangamo. When attention rises up, Dhammas crystallize, rise up. When attention stops, pauses, Dhammas don't exactly end, they atangamo, they diffuse, they go out of configuration. We get into something called the undifferentiated Dhamma, which is one way of describing Nibbana, or the unconditioned, undifferentiated. No boundaries to it, no definitions. So most things, you've got outlines, you've got this and that. The undifferentiated Dhammas of atangamo. Atangamo is used the word to describe a sunset. The sun hasn't finished, it's just gone down. And there's quiet, which we acknowledge, can be known. And it's easeful, there's nothing to grasp. The citta has been coaxed, weaned, trained, encouraged to follow that movement. Trust it. Linger. It will happen. But you have to have the desire to sustain that process and to work with the rocks and the grit and the mud. Find the stream. So often I'm encouraging people to know that you experience doubt rather than being the doubter, having all kinds of doubts, well I should do this and how I should practice and it seems like this, I don't know. No doubt as an object. Because once we know doubt as an object, it's no longer a stream. The citta is not wrapped in it. It's not particularly agreeable. We don't like it. But it can be known as an object rather than being a subject. Because if it's known, if it's experienced as a stream that I'm wrapped in, it's going to travel a long way and keep messing everything up. Doubt myself, doubt place, doubt Buddhism, doubt practice, doubt existence, doubt, where's it going to go? It just ends in this kind of nihilism, depression, which is extremely damaging. To have no faith. No. We experience doubt when we long for certainty. We want to find a distinct thing to hold on to be, to identify with. It can't be done. The arising of doubt is a kind of good thing in a way, if it helps to shake some of our rooted assumptions. Disorientation, good. Confusion, oh good. Don't know what to do, oh good. No, it's an object, rather than be in the stream, then the energy that's propelling it is withdrawn, the struggling with it is withdrawn, the trying to make it go away is withdrawn, and then the sense of an entity, who is that, declines, and instead there's a sense of being, the knowing of this phenomenon, which, when one considers it, everybody has. So, or not everybody, but the thinking mind has it. It's the nature of it. It does that way. Every conclusion in science creates the next set of doubts about where does this go? What's the meaning of life? Where's the origin of the universe? What happens when we got to the Higgs boson? Where do you go now? When you got back to the Big Bang and discovered it wasn't a Big Bang after all, but a little squeak of something happened before it, or before time began, where do we go now? I don't know. We don't know. That's generally what they're saying now. In quantum, nothing can be said about anything apart from it happens. So in this kind of, but then instead of the struggle, it's just that awe. an openness to the wow, wow. You know? And that's where it can take you, that sense of the humility, the humbling of the intellect. And when the intellect is humbled, the citta comes out from those clothes, those wrappings, those inclinations, and stands in knowing, in awareness. But as I said, it's not exactly sights and sounds or even thoughts themselves that wrap the citta. It's perceptions, feelings. And the big story is, wherever there's consciousness, perceptions and feelings arise, contact arises. And you have this thing called nama rupa. And it's appearances, rupa, something appears, a rupa appears, and nama, it's known, it's designated, it's labelled. It's, so we see something, oh, it's a hammer. So we first the object, and then, oh, it's a hammer. So attention seizes the outlines of that particular visual thing, defines it, and then recognition. Attention grabs it, perception labels it, and feeling. Maybe you don't feel very much about a hammer. But if I want to knock a stone in, the sight of a hammer, there's a little ripple of, oh good, there it is. And so it suggests an inclination, doesn't it? When you see a hammer, you don't think of soup. Or a bow tie. Or Stravinsky. You think of nails, wood, stone, metal. So it sets up the basis of an inclination, of a cetana. And this is nama, called perception, feeling, contact, intention, and attention. So at the moment when contact, we get it, then the designation experience, and then it suggests an inclination. Hammer. Means I'm going to knock something, not going to eat it. So this is the way then these set up these movements, don't they? But what about if that process of designating was understood as a process that could be halted? I see an object, hammer. It's just really. What does a squirrel see when it sees it? It doesn't see a hammer. What does a squirrel see? Is it really a hammer? Or is it just something I call a hammer? Now you see, most of us recognise a hammer, but you look at some particular gadgets, I don't know what it is, some kind of squiggly thing with wires sticking out of it, and somebody tells me, oh, it's a discombobulating radicator or something like that. And I go, right. To me, it doesn't mean anything. So I feel like a squirrel looking at a hammer. I think, what do I do with it? Eat it? Suck it? Plug it in? Just leave it alone, Ajahn. I'll deal with it. So, is it really a thing? Is it really no, we name it. And if you've got a name for it, you probably know what to do with it. If you don't have a name for it, intention ceases. Intention ceases, movement ceases. The thing has no urge to do anything about it. This is the ceasing. And then eventually you don't need to even name it as anything. So the ceasing. And then that noticing that struggle to define or know or what to do, it's an object. It's no longer a current that's sweeping you along. It's a flurrying mood of trying to fit something in. It's a flurrying thing. It's not carrying you. You've made peace with that. I can't know. Nobody knows everything. Humbling, good. Uncertainty, good. Stay there, peaceful, released. So this is how, with the arising of Namarupa, is the rising up of the citta. It rises, it gets going. With the ceasing of Namarupa, atangamo citta, citta goes out. It doesn't radically, it's ought to be radically transformed. This is the deathless. That is the citta release from all grasping, all positions. This is the deathless. Doesn't mean the ending of the citta, it means the ending of a certain wrapping around the citta, the clinging, the craving, the bedrocks in the stream removed. Citta still, like a lake, measureless. You can't measure it. That's an attention, that's an action of nama. That stops. So it's said, one whose citta has gone out, there's no way in which you can measure it. Cannot be measured. Atangamo. And the world of ideas and objects is because mysterious and perhaps not even something really, well, I don't fancy that. This little recollection from Patachara, when she goes doing her walking meditation and she goes in from the hut, from the walking path, washes her feet, sits down and turns down an oil lamp. It says, just like the flame going out, my mind is released. So what's the right? That sense of a darkness is no longer frightening. They were no longer to fill. One could be aware of that. Doesn't mean you never light a candle. So then desire has come to a place, the motivations, the inclinations of our practice, carefully studied, carefully trained, motivate yourself towards just that levering back, that which was carrying you along, urging you along, sweeping you around. It's an object. Your concerns about the world, the worries about your relatives. So, not saying don't do it, just there it is as an object. I'm not saying don't do it. Just hold it as an object. This is worry. And then maybe there's that detachment, that dispassion changes. That nagging, fretful, unfulfilled state of impotence, can't make it, can't do it, into, as it ceases, the stream ceases. The citta quietens. But if it's turned towards the world, it manifests compassion. Not because I'm trying to be a compassionate good guy who fixes everybody. It's just that's what happens when the citta is released from its own enmeshments and craving and grasping, and it turns towards the world. We get Mahakaruna, the great compassion. Obviously, the Buddha, absolute, sterling, 100% example of that. Did he think he was going to change the world? He didn't think that. Did he think everybody should be a Buddhist? He didn't think that. Did he think, I'm going to set up something that everyone will understand? He didn't think that. Just turn towards the citta, turns to the world of compassion, and then pure motive, pure desire, pure motivation follows that in the world of desire. But then, as we recognize in the suttas, the Buddha says, This 2 weeks, I'm going to turn it back. I want to enter that release that I attained at the Bodhi tree. Definitely a desire. Turns it back. The swan leaves the lake. And, measureless. And he definitely determined, as it said, let no one come near me for 2 weeks except the bhikkhu who brings my food. So you're still going to eat. So, but then taking that time just to let the system go into, you say, downtime. The Buddha's downtime. It's kind of disrespectful maybe, but Nibbana is the complete downtime. System just kind of rests. Maybe that just allows subtle form of regeneration, or anyway, who knows? I'm not going to second guess it. But there's that. There's the complete relinquishment of all formations, you could say, and then there's the relinquishment of craving, grasping, attachment, worry, proliferation, which the world, Buddha, with that relinquishment, enters the world of desire for our welfare and benefit. And we can enter that. So we're not trying, if you're trying to eliminate desire, some people think that, partly because of an understandable translation. The tanha is thirst. I mean, it's a compulsive, it's a reflex, it's not a measured decision. It's like thirst. You don't decide to have some craving. You get it, it gets you. It's a psychological reflex from unawakened ignorance, not knowing. It just does it. But then deliberate, motivated, clearly fashioned desire, that's to be encouraged. And then you moderate it. It's not a desire to sit for 24 hours without moving. You want to do that? Wouldn't recommend it, but you want to do it? It's your thing. But maybe just learning to step back from one thought would be a good idea. Even that thought, maybe just to step back from that and take a look at it. Who's got it? Where is it going? Who belongs to it? Who does it belong to? I think, hey, there's nobody here. Contact. All these ideas didn't land on a me. They landed at a place where there was a blur of contact, impression, and a blur in activity. And if that blurring was stopped, if there were no ignorance, then contact wouldn't rise. It would just, And then we saw touching the deathless, contacting the deathless. In one's own body, one contacts the deathless. Interesting. Consider it. So, as I was saying, cast your own light on this experience. You're a living being, you've got desire. You have to, but contemplate it. When you walk up and down, you don't need identity to walk up and down. You don't have a plan. But you can find that balance whereby citta has something, a sense of balance itself to orient around. You don't have good balance, happy balance. I'm more balanced than you are, I'm the most balanced. No, you just have balance. The body balances as it walks. And that balance is quiet. It doesn't feel anything, it just feels quiet, steady. What's it like when you absorb into that? What's it like when you turn into that and you give up fretting over sensations and what other people are doing and temperature? When you return to that, what's that like? Cast the light on that. It's a good sign that within this world of form and desire, there is a cool place that's available for us. Anyone?